Hey guys, welcome. I'm Rob Tetraults, one half of the running journey. This is my brother Charlie. Pretty excited to be here today because we get to talk about a race that Charlie just did. Also on this episode, so that is the half-IRONMAN that Charlie did in Hecla. Also going to get to talk a little bit about my running experience in Scotland and England. And it's like, I don't want to say life-changing, but it was pretty eye-opening to see how different the world is out there. I ran, 200 kilometers, 250 kilometers, something like that while I was out there. Also want to talk about a race that we are hosting this weekend, the Office Half Marathon, which is sold out, by the way. And we're going to talk generally about what we both have on the calendar. So busy episode coming up here today. Let's start right off the bat. Charlie, did you jog this morning?
I did. I'm still sweating. So
yeah. Me too. just finished. I jogged to the office.
It's hot out there.
Yeah, it's hot out there. I'm not used to this because that was my first jog outside since I've been back. I just got back from 2 weeks in England and Scotland, and it was like cozy jogging out there. Like it was always like a little bit of drizzle on your skin, so it's like you never felt like that. It wasn't that humid, but you felt a little rain, a little splash of rain pretty much all the time. Never more than like 20, 21 degrees out there. The mornings were always cold, like 10, 12 degrees. This is in the middle of summer. And I'm not saying that this was this was hot for them. This was like one day, Charlie, we went out and the radio was like, "It's a doozy out there. It's a bloody heat wave. A bloody heat wave." And I looked at my watch and it was 23 degrees. 23 degrees. Yeah. And the lady said, it's projected to be the hottest day of the year in Scotland. So it got to 27. We went to
imagine people from Texas.
The hottest day of the year.
They'd be freezing. They'd be freezing in the middle of summer.
Yeah. Remember when we went to Texas and there was that people had like the winter jackets before our race?
Yeah.
It was
I think you get accustomed to a certain temperature.
Yeah. Anyways,
but that's to mention like, well, I was thinking about on places to live if you only cared about running, and I would imagine England would be one of the top spots because it doesn't get too hot in the summer and it doesn't get too cold in the winter, so it would be pretty nice. Maybe at a place like Vancouver, I don't know, but I think
Vancouver is you don't get enough. Like it's like dreary because there's never the sun's never out.
Yeah,
so I think your mental health would suffer. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But London, England. I was lucky enough to travel to Ireland a few years ago. I did 2 weeks in Ireland. I absolutely loved Ireland. I had just started jogging, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And I loved it. Loved Ireland. Rolling green hills everywhere. People are so friendly. There's a little mountain that you could climb every kind of 20, 40 kilometers. Yeah. It was just beautiful. This reminded me of Ireland. Scotland reminded me of Ireland. There's always a path or a race or something you can jog or somewhere you can go. I wouldn't say there's a ton of like jogging paths in the city. So like in London itself, there's not that many paths, but it's outside of the major cities. There's just so many running opportunities, and then the hills too. So I always chirped my Garmin. I don't know about you. Do you have a hill score on your Garmin, like a hill score? Is that a
elevation?
Thing? It's like hill. I think it's like a score. You have like an endurance score. You have a VO2 max. You have and one of the things I have is hill training score, and I was always average. It never moved higher than average. And I was always like, screw you. I'm good at running hills. I know I am. I was mad at my Garmin. And I know what it does. It measures how much elevation you have. Because all of a sudden, my score went into the 75th percentile over the last 2 weeks. Just because I did 15,000 feet of elevation climb or whatever. But
when I was training for Boston, I did pretty much once a week where I'd go like full blast up and full blast down. It was kind of, I feel like that actually helped. At the time,
that helped.
I didn't realize it, but I feel like I got like faster with less effort kind of thing.
I'm convinced now. I only did 2 weeks on these hills, but I'm convinced that I'm weak on hills now. I realize it. Garmin
Well,
is
yeah.
right.
I mean, we live in Manitoba, right? So,
And then I'm convinced that I need to do more hills. And I mean, when I do hills, when Patrick gives me hills, I put the treadmill at 8 and I do like 2 minutes on the treadmill at 8. I don't know if that's the same effect. I doubt it is, but
yeah.
that's kind of how I do my hills. I do them on the treadmill incline. I've seen you've done the Nairn overpass. I think you've done the Garbage Hill. You've done a few other hills, right?
Yeah, not much, but yeah.
But you've done some. And I remember seeing you do that. And I remember thinking like, why is he doing that? Like, why am I not doing like what? And
Yeah.
I get it now. It's absolutely a benefit. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just basing this out of nothing but my thoughts. But my thoughts.
But I mean, like the way I was thinking about it was, is it actually better than just doing intervals? Right. And I think there's two benefits to it is you actually kind of build different muscles, like because you're practicing going up and down. So you'll build up your quads on the way down and you'll build up maybe your hamstrings more on the way up. And I think it's on the way up. What it does is you can run at a faster pace. You can run at a harder intensity without going actually faster, which helps you build like kind of the muscular the muscular speed and the muscular power without burning yourself out. I think that'd be the difference about just doing that compared to just doing intervals.
I would agree with you. And I'm not an expert, but me
neither.
I could see these. Okay. So I was running in like the last day in Edinburgh. There's this mountain in the middle of the city. It's called Arthur's Seat. It's right in the middle of the city, and people run up it and people run around it. And there's a nice running path around it. And I was zooming by everyone at my 8.5 minute mile pace on a regular basis. And when we were going up the mountain, everyone was passing me. And I was like, why is everyone am I that bad at going up and I am that bad at going up the hill. I'm that bad at it. And I'm good at running on flat surfaces, and I'm way worse at running up the hills. Anyways,
but I think also people don't regulate as well as probably. I know people don't regulate as well as I do. They don't go too fast up and they go too slow down. In other words, they regulating their effort is what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, I'm very good at regulating my effort. Very, very good at that.
Yeah, I think we are definitely above that because of the amount of miles that we've put in. We're good at regulating our effort, and I think people under-regulate going uphill and down and under-regulate like they don't. I mean, it's a bit hard to go fast down, but if you're actually like spending energy to slow yourself down, then it's kind of sometimes you have to. But yeah,
I did one of these hikes. So I talked about the one I did, the 5.5 hours on the last podcast episode. I did another one in Scotland. It was 5 hours and 7 minutes recommended length. Yeah. And I found this website that said fastest times ever. And it had a 1:45 for this thing. And I was like, okay, so let's see if I could do 1:45. So I couldn't do 1:45, but I did like a 2:10, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
So up the hill and down the hill, basically.
Wow.
2 hours and 10. It was I forget whatever the hike it was in Scotland. It was awesome. And I loved it, but I was busting hard. And on the way down, that's what I was thinking. This guy probably beat me on the way down. Well, he probably beat
more experience. Like, so have you heard of Kilian Jornet?
Tell me.
Okay. You should know who he is. He's like the all-time greatest trail runner, basically, right?
So you get mad at me for not knowing things, but remember, I'm just new to the sport, and I'm just
I understand. I'm just
loving
so ultra running. Kilian Jornet's the king of ultra running. Okay, he's won like
Kilian Jornet.
Yeah, he's won.
We'll get him on the podcast.
Yeah. He's won UTMB, which is what we talked about that Greg Penner is going to do in a couple weeks. But if you ever see a video of him running downhill, he's so good at it. He's incredible. Yeah.
Is he as good as those guys who chase the cheese in Scotland?
Way better. Yeah, way better.
He just follow.
Yeah, that's a good sport, though.
That's the cheese rolling. They break like 7 arms. I don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix. Everyone breaks their arms every time.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yay, what a sport. The I did. I talked about how I learned about hills. So I learned about hills, but I also learned about what I love. Like I loved running in the countryside, and I didn't really enjoy. So every day I'd have a jog, and some days I was in the city, some days I was in the country, and we were all over the place. I loved jogging in I feel like my dad now, like green space. Very like cathartic for me. It was very like, I love that way more than, so in the city, what I would do, I would pick a monument or I'd pick a site and I jog to that and I jog back. That's probably what you do too, right? When you're in a different country.
Yeah. No, I usually, or I'll check if there's common or popular routes. I might run those. But speaking of running in other cities, so Paris, that is a great place to do some sightseeing when you run. But I was looking at the marathon course.
Loved it in Paris.
Yeah, the marathon course for the Olympics. They actually run to Versailles. I'm like, how come I didn't run to Versailles? We took a train that took forever. We had to I should have just ran there. It's only like 20K. It's only 20K.
There were a few times during my trip. I don't know about you, when you're traveling and you pull up the distance on Google Maps and it's like 2.7 kilometers and you're like 11 minutes. How's it going to take me 11 minutes to do 2 kilometers because you're downtown or whatever? And I would often tell Michelle,
driving,
I could jog this. Yeah, driving. I would often tell Michelle, like, I could jog this faster.
Yeah, my wife.
My
wife gets really annoyed when I could jog there quicker.
But I had an idea. And I think I'm going to make this happen. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, but last time I was in Toronto, I
beat the subway.
Beat the cab versus the subway versus the jog downtown. So our office is about 23 kilometers from the airport and our downtown office. And I often have to go there for business or whatever. And sometimes I have to go with another
23 kilometers. That's going to take you at least an hour and a half.
Yeah. But right now, I think it's the QEW is closed. So, there's 2 highways that go.
You got to bring your suitcase too, though.
No, I'm not bringing my suitcase. That was one of the rules. So it would be me versus, because it's always been cab's been slightly faster than the uptown. They call it the Up Union Pearson Express. Yeah. But lately the train is faster because cabs, they can't move. There's only one road in and it takes like an hour and a half for a cab to get in. So I thought I'm going to do a YouTube video where it's like me versus a cab versus a train.
And I'll take the bike.
Well, you're going to kill us on the bike. That's not fair. But maybe you couldn't because there would be traffic too. Maybe it'd be hard for you on the bike. I don't know.
No, you just weave through.
But there were many times. And then that brings me to a different point. And I swear we're going to get to your race in a sec. But this concept. And I brought this up to my wife and she thinks I'm a little crazy sometimes. And Cheryl probably does too. I'm just going to make my statement and then I'm going to ask you about it after instead of doing the whole. My statement was that I don't think there's a distance where I would rather drive than jog. A distance in minutes. So less than, let's say, 8 hours.
Oh, yeah. 100% agree.
So let's say you had a 3-hour drive. So there were many times on our trip where we'd have an hour, 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive between cities and whatever.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, I wish I could just jog this instead, right? Because you're sitting in a car and nothing's.
But happening. Like, how many kilometers is this 3-hour drive?
So kilometers are irrelevant in my makeshift scenario here. So what matters is the time.
Oh, you'd rather run 3 hours than drive 3 hours.
Exactly. Whether it's
yeah, not even close.
What's the number where you would because I was thinking about this and I was talking to my wife about it. She's like, oh yeah, even like a drive to Toronto, like 20 some hours. And I was like, maybe if I could time it, like driving to Toronto is not a fun drive, right? If you drive 21 hours, that one probably not. I'd rather, but I mean, I did my 12-hour jog and I think I would rather do a 7-hour jog than drive to Minneapolis. Would you rather jog?
Yeah. I'd rather do a 7. Well,
like 10-minute miles, let's say. The pace is irrelevant, right? Because
it's tough. It's tough to. I think if you try to answer it in a vacuum, then definitely the 7-hour run is much more appealing.
What do you mean in a vacuum? Like no
Well, I guess, I mean, straight up, if it's my last 7 hours on Earth, I'm definitely going to run 7 hours versus drive 7 hours, is what I'm saying. But the thing is, in real life, in a scenario like, there's all this planning and stuff that goes with a 7 hour.
Okay,
7 hour.
I get it. You're saying you don't want to be beat after, and the overhead of
and then everything after, all that,
yeah. 7 hours, bit of overhead, but let's say less than 3, there's no overhead.
Yeah, agreed.
And you don't have to worry about
under 3. It's a get okay. I'll go a bit less. Under 2 or under. It's no brainer.
Yeah, I think it's 100%. I'd say 3. Under 3.
Yeah. 3. It starts getting some organizing.
2.5.
Yeah.
You don't have to plan anything. You just strap on your shoes, you run, and when you get there, you're at the museum or whatever, or you're in the city that you're supposed to go to. Yeah. And there were times where I was driving and I'd just be like, Michelle, I wish I could jog this for you guys. She's like, this scenario of yours is, and then she started asking me questions. Okay, in this fake scenario of yours, do the kids just magically show up to the destination? Yes, that's what happens. I jog my distance and they show up in Leeds or in Sheffield or in Manchester. Then let's say it's a half-hour drive today because we're just going to see this castle or whatever. Well, then I just half-hour jog and, and they show up there and she goes, could you walk some of it? I go, I haven't really thought about it too much, but I think I'm jogging 9 or 10 minute miles, 10-minute mile, 11-minute miles, 12-minute miles, worst case, if it's a 7-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour. But I mentioned this to Joel, my personal trainer who does ultras, and he just laughed. He's like, this is such a ridiculous concept, Rob. And I said, is it? I'm sure others have thought of this. And like, I bet you, he said, I'll bring it up with my brother on the podcast. I bet you he'll agree with me. Not only do you agree, you're like, it's so obvious that you would, right?
Well, I think under 3, I agree for sure. Over 3, then not sure.
But even over 3, you would just, Michelle, do me a favor. You don't have to do anything. You're going to magically show up in the distance, but I need you to get me some water.
So that's what I mean. Okay, with this magical scenario, for sure. I didn't know how magical the scenario was.
It's magical. The scenario is magical. I haven't mapped it out too much yet, but there were many times, especially in Edinburgh. So I've never been to England or Scotland. It was my first time ever. I didn't know anything about these cities. I mean, I didn't know anything. I don't know. What do you know about Edinburgh? Probably the same thing I knew. It's a city in Scotland. I don't know. So London. Probably. Yeah. So Claude told me, don't go to Scotland. It's freezing there. You ever watch the British Open? They're always miserable. They're always wearing toques in the middle of summer. And it was not my experience. It was actually beautiful. And
but you were in the heat wave of the century. Apparently. Heat wave
of the century. So maybe it's not always like that. And we didn't even barely any rain, but,
so it's like Newfoundland, but it's probably very similar to Newfoundland. I would guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It was felt way nicer, but I'm guessing we got.
That's why the Scots went from Scotland to Newfoundland, because it's the same thing. Maybe. No, I think it's Irish actually, but
maybe. The city though, London itself. Holy smokes, London is like New York.
Happening. London, everything's triple the price.
And the thing is, so we happened to go at the period in time where the dollar was the weakest against the British pound in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah. So I just remember things being super expensive.
$1.85 was the conversion. So you'd go to, let's say, a cheap diner in London, and you could get a burger and fries for 20, 25 pounds. Okay. So that's like what we would pay, or let's say 20 pounds. Let's use the number 20 pounds. That's what I would pay to go get a burger and fry at a place in Winnipeg. And that's probably what I'd pay in New York to get a burger and fry in New York somewhere. But it was
but in Canadian dollars.
I know, that's my point. So it was the same. And when we get to the rural areas,
that's kind of how I remember it too. It's like the same price, except it was
same price except double.
Except pounds instead of dollars.
The same price, except everything's double. Like you get your gas. Your gas was like I think it was 180 a liter, pounds. You'd stop for your jug of milk. It was 4 pounds. You'd stop. Everything was just double the price. Like everything. It was crazy. how everything was. Anyways, it's expensive, but it was a once in a lifetime thing. But London is so busy. Like,
Yeah.
it
Oh, and
really.
did you notice how fast people walk?
What's with the walkers in London and not giving a shit about you? And like, and Edinburgh was bad for that. Or the entire English people. I'm not trying to take shots here, but I jogged a lot in London and in England, and they just don't care about your personal space whatsoever. You don't exist.
Well, because it's like that in bigger cities, though. It's just like that because
I'd be
it's
jogging.
Just people are more used to it, used to the being more crowded, right? Like if you go to like, I lived in Korea for a while. The same thing. It's just that they're used to the crowdedness, and they're like, I'm walking a path, and I've established my path, and I'm going in that path,
Right, but you're jogging at 6 a.m. No one's on the road, and there's one person on the path 100 yards away, and you're jogging, and you're like. The other tangent I want to go on is the right versus left.
Oh yeah. But I see that I have the same problem in Winnipeg. So
the right versus left.
Well, people not being logical in the way that they walk.
Right, but I mean, I get that you're confused.
But that's just like my thing, It's just
so. What I would do if it was debate, if we're both in the middle, I would point with my hand to one way. Yeah. Be like, I'm going here. So I would move to the side and I'd go there. And then I'm jogging on the side of the sidewalk or wherever. They're not moving.
So no, for sure. Yeah.
No one's moving.
So my policy is I just go 3-4 feet out of the way and I let them go at this point, because I just realize now that's the same thing in Winnipeg.
Is it though? I don't think so. This morning on my job,
it's the same thing, man.
No, people were courteous this morning on my job.
Well, there's two scenarios. So because we're in Winnipeg, there's the scenario where people are overly polite.
Yes.
Where they'll move out by like 6 feet. I'm like, I see you. You don't have to move by 6 feet.
Right. And then you get upset about that. You're being too polite. Too polite.
So there's the too polite Winnipeg, and then there's the people that just don't care and they just go. So those
are fewer in Canada. Come on.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably right. There's less of those.
So the other thing that was glaring to me, and I don't mean to make this a podcast about Canada versus English. I love the English. I'm not. But we are on a different level of politeness in Canada. The more I travel, this is
the skits that make people.
It's real.
Yeah.
Canadians are absurdly polite. Like with kids, like there were times in London where I couldn't walk. It was so like. Have you ever had the feeling in your life? Well, you have, because you lived in Korea. I had never really had the feeling that I would get trampled by a crowd. Like that's never happened to me, but it happened twice on my trip. It happened at Michelle's 10K. It was so crowded, I couldn't move.
Oh, yeah. How did the 10K? I want to hear about Michelle's 10K.
Okay, she had a personal best, shaved another 3 minutes off. So I got her a charity bib because it was sold out. This I believe is the largest 10K in the world, or one of. It was like it felt like Boston, like New York. It felt like New York, the waves and the time. And I happened to have booked
for a 10K. You have to organize
for a 10K.
All that.
Yeah, it was.
You're showing up 2 hours early. You have to take a bus. You have to do this, and the race is 45 minutes. Or whatever.
So
Michelle probably took 50 or something, but
she took 61 or something, 62.
Yeah, but personal best.
She's coming off an injury, so she's trimming time every time. Yeah, and the course directory for like where to show up the morning of the lead in to the what do you call it? The corral. The corral. Was like 3 kilometers long.
But there's a reason they do that, right? Like,
and the corral went past our hotel. So our hotel happened to be, because I wanted something central.
So you just jumped out the window to like kind of get to the corral.
She just kind of jumped the barricade and went into the corral.
Oh,
I said, you're not going all the way.
How did she get through the barricade? Though that's what I was trying to say. Like, how do you get over the barricade? I'm sure there's a barricade.
Yeah, there were. It wasn't like.
She squeezed in.
She squeezed in and then got into the corral. And I went jogging that morning before her race, and I saw them setting it up. Like I went.
How did you not run the 10K and Michelle did?
So.
Because the kids, someone's gonna watch the kids.
Yeah, and I don't want to this podcast. She doesn't listen to it, so I can share my secrets here. But I wanted to do the Magna Carta half the next day.
I see.
So I kind of. I wanted to get her excited about running, and she is excited about running, but she's not like us. She doesn't go and look at the races. Like I book a trip, I look months ahead, all the races in that area. In fact, I'll move the trip based on.
See, I had never really, when I went on my trip to Europe earlier this year, to me, it was like, yes, I'm going to get a perfect 2-3 weeks of training for Boston and with nice weather, and I'll be able to do like tons and tons of miles, no stress-free miles. But I didn't really want to race. So
really?
No, now that I think of it, it probably would be fun. I just didn't even think of it.
Yeah, it's so fun, Charlie.
I was really zoned into my Boston training at that point.
I get it. I get that. But it's I love traveling races because you get to it's different. You meet the culture. It's just a different experience when you're running. New area. I don't know why I love races. So even if I don't race, but like that, I wanted to do that Magna Carta half, and it was like an hour outside the city, and it was a little. So what I did is I kind of did the point system. You have a point system with your wife where you do something in exchange for something else, kind of thing. Yeah. So I bartered, and I said, "Great news! I found a 10K for you. You're gonna love it. It's the most number one 10K on the planet, and I got you a bib. It's sold out, but I found you a charity bib, and you're in, and you're running for the London Hospital, and blah blah blah." And she was like, "Wow, thank you so much. I'm excited. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it." And I said, she's like, "Aren't you gonna run it?" That was her thing. Exactly. "Aren't you gonna run the 10K?" I said, "You know what? I'll find another half marathon or something. I'll try to find something somewhere else." And I had already found the race that I wanted to do. I said, "Don't worry about me. I'll try to find something else." And then, of course, I found my race. And then, like a few days later, I said, "You know what? I found one. I think I'll do the Magna Carta half. Does that work?" She said, "Yeah, for sure." So she had her London 10K. I had my half, and it was a great compromise. And she had a blast. So that morning, I went out. I jogged in the morning to scope it out. I was like, "Holy shit, Michelle, this is busy." Like, and she was like getting all nervous, and she was getting stressed out, and she's like, I said, "Okay, here's what you do." So I kind of walked her to the place, and she went and she did it. And we were right in the middle, and the race went to all the big London, like the London Eye, the Buckingham Palace, the landmarks. And we happened to be in a spot where we could walk like 100 yards, see her pass, walk 200 yards, see her pass again, walk 100 yards. We were from the finish line. It was the best location, randomly lucky. Best location we could.
Makes you want to run the London Marathon, one day?
Oh yeah, that's next year for sure. Or I don't know how we get in, but do you know how to get into the London Marathon?
I think you have to do the
travel package.
Yeah.
When is it? Let's do it next year. You want to do it next year?
I am thinking I want to do Chicago next year because you're doing it this year. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. London though is about the same time as Boston.
Okay, yeah, I won't be at Boston next year because when's the window? The window's closed, right?
No, it closes in September.
Treehorn Marathon's my last chance.
Yeah,
I'm not allowed to do a max effort at Treehorn, so yes, we'll do London. But anyways, we could talk about that for another day. But it was a glorious experience because I took the kids. We walked 100 yards. We saw her pass, walked a bit, saw her pass, walked, went to the finish line. She was pumped. Kids were pumped. It was awesome. Just an awesome experience, except all the roads are closed in downtown London.
Oh yeah.
And that was
you got to take the tube.
No, and that was our departing day.
Yeah.
So we had a late checkout, so it was fine. So we went back to the room, made lunch, and we had a 1 p.m. checkout. And then we checked out, and I couldn't go get the car, and I hadn't a car yet. So we were picking up a car, and I was going to go get the car, come pick her up, and leave. We were leaving London that day. We couldn't. So we had to walk with the kids in the suitcases and the backpacks about 1.5 miles to get the car because all the roads were closed. Anyways, it took like an hour and a half or whatever.
The pace with the kids was
a little slow.
Not quite as good.
It was a little slow, but we got her done. And then we went to Windsor that night.
Reminds me of like our 2K walk that we did when we got to Paris. Took like an hour and a half.
Oh, they're just miserable at the end too, eh?
Yeah.
You're thinking 600 meters, we'll go see a castle. It's not far. 600 meter walk. Yeah. It's not far. You park the car, you see the castle. You're like, it's right there. It's 600 meters. By the time you get walking with the kids, one's gone in the bush. One's can't tie her shoes. It's like, oh my God, it takes forever. But it's what it's all about. It's fun. And I loved it. I loved my trip. I love the running aspect of it. I said this in my last podcast when we record, but it's what I would do if I was retired. I'm pretty sure is I would start a travel running blog, and I would just cool places to run in the world, and I would do races, and that's what I would do, I think. Anyways, I'm 43 years old, so that's not happening, but
soon.
So anyways, that was my running experience, which I loved, and I have so many more stories. But sorry, last thing I have to say is I drove 2 weeks on the wrong side of the road, and I drove 2 weeks on the wrong side of the road in Ireland. No problem, right? I figured it out quick. I know it look this way when you're crossing a road, not that way. I figured it out. But the running part, I almost got hit by so many cars because you're approaching.
Oh, yeah, that'd be different. Yeah.
You're looking the wrong way when you're jogging in cities or in the country and you're just crossing a road or something.
And you do like to run in traffic. So
I run in traffic, and I almost got hit by cars. Oh my God. Like, I actually almost died once. And I was like, fudge, Rob, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, that's why I've been telling you, just be safe. Like, it's 10 seconds that you have to wait at the corner. It's not a big deal.
No, but okay, this was just me being safe, but looking the wrong way. And like, okay, no cars, but like the cars are coming from the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I almost got hit by a car. Anyways, that's one thing. Be very careful of if you jog in England and you're going, let's say you're doing your fast. It's not a big deal if you're running 9 or 10 minute miles because you have time to.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I was doing my intervals or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm doing 400 meters at a fast pace and you have to cross an intersection and you're bolting and you're going full speed and you're looking that way, but the cars are coming from that way. Anyways, be careful is what I have to say.
Yeah.
Or just don't get hit by a car. It's really not worth it. Oh, that one time. Okay. So I have in front of me long course Hecla triathlon. Charlie, you just did a half Ironman, AKA long course. How did it go?